Go time, baby.
It's go time, Corey. Hello, and welcome to the Average Bros Gym podcast, where your two hosts with eerily similar names, Croy and Corey, sit down and walk you through fitness, health, and life advice, which seeks to meet you where you are at. No black and white takes. Damn, I was so fucking close.
You were.
No black and white takes. No polarizing takes. No black and white advice or something like that. Just genuine advice
and
good
conversation.
Good conversation.
Dang,
I almost had that.
You did. You were on it. I could tell. You were right in the pocket.
I have nothing on the other screen. I'm not reading anything. I'm just talking to the camera.
Yep.
And lights, camera, action. I've got my Dungeon Master mug here. This is a fake plastic mug, but it looks like a old school tavern ale mug.
It's a good way to describe it. Yeah, something like the Vikings would have. It would seem to be.
We should get a drinking horn. We should be drinking out of horns, Corey.
Have you ever
drunk out of a horn?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, same.
Do you think that'd be something I would have done?
Yes, 1,000%.
Yeah, I gotta. Well, they're quite expensive.
100%.
Yeah, 100. Obviously, God, I gotta go online and get one. But yeah, no. Welcome to episode 22.
Whoa,
I know, it's crazy to think about.
It is.
We are right now. It is May 19th, 2024.
Big date.
Did you say 2024 or 2024?
2024.
You say 20?
Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay,
it's less to say.
Yeah,
2000. Like that's a lot.
That's a lot to say. That's true. That's
2020. It's also got some to it.
It's
like staccato.
It's got some to it.
Yeah, versus 2000.
2024.
2024. No.
Well, today is Game 7 of the Timberwolves and Denver Nuggets playoff series. So, vying for a spot in the Western Conference Finals. Who will go on to face the Dallas Mavericks, who won last night
controversially?
Oh, that foul at the end with PJ Washington. Some buddies of mine, shout out Michael, who's in my group chat. He's one of the guys I refer to for basketball. He said it was a foul.
I mean, I guess like by letter of the rule book, yes, because he makes contact initially with the basketball, and then as his hand is coming off, then he clips the elbow a little bit. But in my opinion, I think especially when it comes to playoff basketball, if you get the block first, with the first contact being your hand on the ball, I think after that, everything else is just, whatever.
And that's at the end of the game, too. And it's like
2 seconds left.
Was it a tie game at the time?
No.
They were up by one, maybe?
Something like that. I can't exactly remember. I know they ended up winning by one, but he also missed a free throw.
I believe OKC
must
was
have
up
been
by
tied.
one. Oh, I think OKC was up by one.
Were they?
I think OKC was up by one, and then he made the first two, whatever, or made one to tie.
Yes, that's right, because it was a three-pointer that he got fouled on, wasn't it?
Sure, yeah, it was.
What a crazy, also, even though Shea, phenomenal season for that guy, he finished second in the MVP voting in the NBA. Super young, leads that team as far as they did. What a freak athletic play to just be able to jump up in mid-air, then is able to bring his hand kind of down and then swipe off to the side. It was an impressive play, even though he did get the foul, which again, I don't think should have been called, but hey, it's sports.
Well, team, if you're a basketball fan, it's a good time of year. WNBA season just started as well.
Yes. Also, wow, they're doing, dude, I feel like they're doing Caitlin Clark a little dirty right now.
Here's the deal.
Wow.
Here's the deal. So this is interesting. So this is actually really interesting, and I'd like to hear from I don't know, anybody with a women's perspective in the audience can for sure write to us or reach out, comment. But it's interesting. So I had this observation the other day that when Caitlin Clark's getting into the league, right? Before she's even played a second. I was going to say down. And I was like, that's football. Yeah. But I'm so used to hearing that phrase. Before she's even played a second in the league, you've got these former WNBA players or current WNBA players, Diana Taurasi being one of them, former UConn star, of course, who had said, they kind of making the point when Caitlin Clark, when she gets to WNBA, she's going to see, kind of almost threatening in nature, this girl's hot shit now, but she's going to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I think there's a way to do that in a very kind of growth minded way, or very neutral way. I've been hey, yeah, she's amazing right now. She's going to struggle when she first comes in, but she can work on this area to really turn it up. But I just felt there's a lot of negativity towards Caitlin Clark, oddly enough, and I think I mean, I think some of it could be down to like a jealousy thing of like, hey, this person
Yeah.
was so good at the right moment
Yeah.
and came in and is making, X amount of dollars, where it's like people have fought for the WNBA for years. Women have fought to make this a legitimate like career that women can play and only do this, because for a long time women have played professional basketball in America and then gone to other countries to continue to play in the off season because they needed to make enough money to support their families to do whatever in order to make this a viable career.
Mm.
Um, and so I think like part of it could be that jealousy component. But I just felt like I was like, why aren't people just like not being supportive?
I think it's the jealousy component to a large extent, especially because I mean, if I'm a fellow competitor also, and then I just see the entire media and the entire nation just up Caitlin Clark's ass just because she is kind of the first one to mold the game in that way, where she literally changed the game of WNBA basketball with that long 3-pointer, which you hadn't seen to that level yet. But then if you have all of these other elite level WNBA players in the league that look at Caitlin Clark and be like, I'm fucking better than her.
Yeah.
Anything else, like, but she's the one that all of a sudden gets all this fame, the notoriety, the money, and come into the league like, yeah, I'm also just a fellow competitor, just be like, all right, well, fuck that. Like she's about to learn, like you're coming up to the big leagues. I mean, I do see where you're coming from, where why would you not want, I'm thinking from just a business standpoint, like even if I'm in the league, I recognize the revenue that Caitlin Clark is bringing in. There's reports coming out that the WNBA franchises and teams are moving their game locations to larger
more people,
events and stadiums. And so if I'm an athlete already in the WA, I don't really give a shit if, she's getting all of this fame and notoriety, because it's also going to benefit me in the long run. I do understand that it's going to be a change of pace, but why not just the games play out for what they will and then just be able to just see? I mean, because clearly right now she's struggled the first couple games.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. She's been cuffed up.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And Asia Wilson is going off again for the Aces. Kelsey Plum going off as well. Cameron Brink, who was like, I think the second or third pick of Stanford. Mm-hmm. She's been having a rough time the other night. There's a snapshot. She had like 0 points and 4 fouls. Mm-hmm. And like, but that's what happens with rookies. But that's kind of like, so I can see it from one perspective where it's like, let's say, in the football realm, like Caleb Williams, for instance, going number 1.
Yeah.
Like people are saying that about Caleb Williams, but no one's like, but it's also like Caleb Williams didn't change the face of the NFL.
No.
Versus Caitlin Clark has kind of a long, it definitely helped along. I mean, not like herself only, but she's helped change the face of women's college basketball and surely WNBA now that she's in the professional league.
1,000%.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And so like I think a lot of it is like just that bigger microscope on her because of what she's helped do already.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean that's crazy for me to like be thinking for me to be seeing people like wishing her ill. I'm like, the fuck? Like you should be I'm not saying you gotta be like, you're not saying you have to praise her or do whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a way to be like, there's a way to say like, oh yeah, she's gonna struggle because of XYZ. Like if you actually want yourself, and like Diana Taurasi, whatever, if you want yourself to be an actual legitimate like analyst,
no,
you can be like, hey, yeah, actually she's gonna struggle with this and this, but like if she works on this game and this game, I could see her propelling by mid-season or whatever that is.
Well, and then I've also heard that the opening games that Caitlin Clark's team, she plays on the Indiana Fever. Other than that, my knowledge of the WNBA basketball landscape is very, very minimal. But
the Las Vegas Aces are by far and away the best team.
And wasn't that one of their very first games?
Won back-to-back, I believe. I think they're going for a 3-peat.
Okay, but that was one of the teams that the Fever played in their first like 1 to 2 games.
It might have been the first game.
And I'm thinking from a business side of things, that you have Caitlin Clark, like your golden child that's coming into the league that is going to generate so much revenue. Why would you in a way set her up to fail right away in the first 1, 2, 3 games? Because she's getting blown out. I just saw the other night she got fucking blown off of her feet at a pick near like top court, and she's there, and it's just like a rough start. But like, why would you not want to set her up with some bunny games, like to just build her up? Like, holy shit, look at Caitlin Clark just comes on in and drains like 7 threes. Like, no, she just got just dominated.
There's a reason why the Fever had the number 1 pick, and that was because they are a bad team.
Yeah.
So because they're 0-3, they actually have not played the Aces before. The Aces were playing the Sparks.
Okay.
But they've lost to the Connecticut Sun and the New York Liberty twice.
Okay. Well, either way, like I've heard that those were also some of the top end teams in the WNBA. I just think like, why would you not want to set them up for success if you're thinking just from a business side of things again with like the dreads of the league, like let her face the, bottom end.
Washington Mystics or the
Sparks and let her go off and like see some ESPN highlights. Like now it's just like, ooh, wow, because the sheen of it a little bit almost has kind of.
Like, I think people are following a little bit. So the New York Liberty have a player, Sabrina Ionescu, who she competed with Steph Curry in the 3-point competition this past NBA All-Star weekend. And that was kind of a very big deal because it was like, that was kind of like a, hey, like, Ionescu, like women can drain buckets too.
Well, that's
women can drain threes.
That's Clayton Clark.
So yeah, exactly. So I she played against Ionescu twice, which I think is a good like star alignment setup. Just so happens that the Liberty are a much better team, so they won those games handily. But I mean, like she's scratching the surface. She's 3 games in.
Oh God, yeah.
And what people forget as well is the WNBA really has, like, from college to the WNBA started. I mean, Caitlin Clark finished her season 2 months ago, and she's playing in the fucking professional. Like, you know what I mean?
It's
and
nuts.
you might think, okay, well, there's a little bit less of a talent gap, but I think you're wrong on that. I think that it is a stark contrast into what she was facing earlier, even though she's facing some of the same players. I mean, she just faced Ionescu, who was at Oregon 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that was interesting to see. But shouts to her. Shouts to being a good time to be a basketball fan.
Yeah. Well, you got that, and then our T-Wolves tonight up against the Nuggets. So we shall see.
Let's go.
I'll see.
Let's transition to the start of the pod here. So we're going to do a drum beat transition.
Whoa.
All right.
Was never that great at drums.
No, were you not?
No. I mean, I remember having like those little like circle pads like that, but it just wasn't.
Well, weren't you and Ellen talked about, weren't you like first or second chair or something before? Saxophone, that's right.
Saxophones.
Yep.
Do you miss it?
Have you heard the Baker Street song by like James Rafferty?
Potentially.
Is that going to copyright strike me if I just sing it like that?
Maybe. Well, because you're singing it so beautifully.
Shit. So Corey, you had some ideas for this episode today.
Oh boy, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. So this was your.
I get what was a brief summary.
This was what you're looking at.
Yeah. So if we recall from last pod,
Fitness and Folklore, go check it out, Volume 1.
Yep. Right towards the end, I wrapped up with one of my questions of the day, which was, as a recap, if you were to choose 5 famous historical figures to be able to sit with you at a round table on a Sunday morning, sipping back on a good cup of coffee, who would at least one of those famous historical figures be?
Yeah.
And again, with the preface of famous historical figures, they have to have passed away prior to when you were born. Okay, so it can't be in the same timeline. And again, kind of choose your famous one. And I believe your first one last week was Christopher Columbus.
So I could beat his ass.
Are we sticking with Christopher Columbus, or have you?
I've got a whole list of historical figures that I'm going to bring back merely to kick their ass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that's what your top 5 is going to be?
Route. Yeah, my top 5 is going to be top 5 historical figures to beat their ass.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. We'll have to come back to that one, or you got the number
we can go like number by number. So you said Marcus Aurelius last week.
Yes.
I said what's his face? Christopher Columbus.
Yep.
So let's go number 2. What's number 2 for you?
Jesus. I am a follower believer, regardless of what you end up. But yeah, Jesus would be one of my OGs.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going Pol Pot.
Pol Pot.
Pol Pot was a dictator in Cambodia throughout, I believe it was the 70s, 80s. Could be wrong on that, but he was in charge of a group called the Khmer Rouge, which effectively committed a genocide in Cambodia. Essentially, anybody who was like part of a certain ethnic group, anybody who was educated in any way. It was kind of like he tried to make the entire country, like a forced agrarian community.
Mm.
And many people died. And he's a piece of shit. So I'm gonna bring him back and kick his ass.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's my number two.
That's your number two.
Yeah. Again, these are people that I want to talk to. These are people that I'm bringing back exclusively to beat their ass.
I love how exclusively to beat their ass, and then I'm like, well, after my Lord and Savior, I'm going to go with my third pick. I feel as though this one's going to throw you for a loop a little bit, but you already know it. Bruce Lee. I'm going Bruce Lee.
Okay. Do you care to elaborate?
Yeah, was one of the original, if not the original, mixed martial artist. So I had to learn a variety of different martial arts, blending those ideologies together in a way where it was initially kind of, if you were the karate guy, you're the karate guy. If you're the jujitsu guy, you're the jujitsu guy, the kickboxer, etc. You never really blended multiple martial arts like that together. And he was one of the originators of that. And then also just from his mentality, you hear some of a lot of like his famous quotes and how he pursued excellence within his sport and within his career. I just thought would have been a really interesting guy to sit down with.
Yeah, he started Jeet Kune Do, I believe, which was his method. There's a very good movie from the 90s, and it was a good movie when I was a kid. I don't know if it's still a good movie if I watched it in my 30s now. But the Bruce Lee story, a very good movie. So check that out if you haven't yet.
And fun fact, why a lot of people got to know Chuck Norris is because of Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. I didn't even realize that. Like Bruce Lee was in the original, or like coming into being a movie icon. That's how he introduced the world to Chuck Norris. I was like, oh no shit, look at that connection.
Yeah,
I
love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Who would your third be that you are beating ass?
Probably. I'm gonna say his name, but the Third Reich guy. I'm gonna kick his ass. So
Hitler?
Yeah, beat his ass.
Hitler. You going
that dude?
Knock his mustache right off his lip.
I'm just beating. I'm everybody's ass. I'm beating him. So
fair enough.
God, fuck him up.
Number 4.
Yeah.
For my roundtable. Again, as a recap, right now I got Marcus Aurelius, Jesus, Bruce Lee. Coming in at 4, Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi
right. Fucking Hendrix. I think, man, to be taken out like this, again, for anybody who's not necessarily familiar with Jimi Hendrix, this is a classic rock icon. Blew the entire just playing field away when he lined up with the Jimi Hendrix Experience, played renditions for Hey Joe, all on the Watchtower, Purple Haze,
Voodoo Child.
I mean, this would you say I made this because I was explaining this I was having the same conversation with another friend of mine as to why I wanted to pick Jimi Hendrix. And I was like, I feel as though a fair equivalent would be, because he died at 27, would be like if Taylor Swift right now at the peak of her career, boom, was just like gone. I feel like he had that kind of impact on like the music career. Now I get like T Swift in terms of numbers wise is just going to blow him away.
It's the different landscape now.
Yeah, exactly. So again, someone of that ilk, I should say, right? In terms of their ability and their writing and just their greatness as a music artist was just taken away from us so young. Also was like a paratrooper in the army initially before he then just traveled over to England to start playing music and then came back stateside. Woodstock 69, plays the Star Spangled Banner, and probably was tripping on a whole bunch of all worldly things. So that guy's had just like a very unique life. And that would be my number 4, Jimi Hendrix.
All right. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a big Jimmy guy. I love his music. I remember going up to Canada and just like, back in the day, we only had CDs. So we listening to Jimi Hendrix CD and just chilling along to Hey Joe and all the good stuff. So yeah. Cool. My 4th probably going to be Joseph Stalin. Stalin, of course, a famous dictator of the Soviet Union back in the day. Forced lots of different ethnic groups and people who were educated into what we call gulags, which are essentially forced labor camps, prison camps, and was responsible for the death of lots of people. So fuck Stalin, I'm beat his ass. That's my 4th.
So who do we got right now? You said you got Hitler, Stalin,
Columbus,
and
Pol Pot.
Pol Pot. We're going to need to do another one of these breakdowns with like, celebrities with the most punchable faces. Maybe that'll be our next bracket.
Well, that's the thing is if you're a celebrity, whatever, these people that I'm saying are like responsible for like millions and millions of deaths.
That's also fair.
So
okay.
Like, you can get your ass beat for that. I mean,
Yeah.
probably get more than that, but get your ass beat.
That's fair. All right.
Stomp you out with some Tims.
My number 5.
Sorry, I don't condone violence. I'm just saying in this case, it's probably warranted. Yeah.
I'd say. Would be Albert Einstein.
Okay.
Yep. Theory of relativity.
The mad lad himself.
Yeah, and just to be able to have some of those higher level intellectual conversations, be like, you understand the universe.
Do you think you could be in a conversation with Albert?
Fucking try, man. Just to be able to like have that conversation I would just be in awe. Like, wait,
Sure.
How do you see our world? Like, just again, the way in which they view it is just with a completely different lens, and it would just be just to sit within that presence and hear him just talk. Yeah, I think I'm immediately just going to go up a couple IQ points. And he just seemed like a super funny, quirky dude. Like, there's that famous photo of him where he was captured by some of the reporters, like just sticking his tongue out all crazy. And it's like, that just like fits him. He just seems like a fun, goofy guy, besides the fact that he's one of the most intelligent human beings to ever have existed on this planet. Yeah, so would have been my number 5.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. And he was an Oppenheimer too, which was going to be that was maybe a runner-up for me. Would have been Oppenheimer. Yeah.
Who was Oppenheimer? Well, as I look up my 5th right now, I want to make sure that I have the right facts on this.
That would have been my number 5, who was the father of the atomic bomb, and just to be able to talk with him about what that experience would have been like to have created a atomic bomb like that, which has so much just destructive power, which we soon saw put into effect thereafter, and then to just deal mentally with the ramifications of your actions and what your creation then led to, the destruction and death of countless number of people's lives, would just be something. How do you deal with that as a person, because it would just be a fascinating story.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, and deal with the not backlash, but like the ramifications of kind of what you've done.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? Yeah,
exactly.
No.
Just like, wow, what was that like? And then also to he himself being to think on that level. He's seeing the world in a different way at that point. I just think that's incredibly unique.
All right, I like it. Yeah. I like it. I'm gonna go with my 5th. I'm gonna go with Andrew Jackson. 7th president of the United States. President. 7th president. 7th. God, THs are so hard for me to say. 7th president of the U.S., I believe. Yeah. Andrew Jackson, I'm gonna kick his ass. Yeah, pretty fucked up, dude.
Just because he's the 7th, you don't?
Well, no, I mean, obviously, like a lot of early colonizer history in the Americas did a lot of fucked up shit to the indigenous populations here, and he was particularly heinous in what he did to not just indigenous populations, but also African slaves. So,
yep.
I'm just kick his ass.
Fair enough. You're going 5 for 5.
Yeah, 5 for 5. Oh, yeah. Well. No, this is the theme of my historical people is I'm going to bring them back to kick their ass. Yeah.
Okay, so you've looked up like height, weight, like how do you measure up? You think what is you're going to be like a ground and pound?
That'd be fine.
Would that be your go-to? I'm going to need your face, sir, by the way, to see where I picked up. So like now that we have our AI technology soon being able to just capture us all.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I'm gonna kick his ass.
We started rewatching Social Dilemma the other night
with
Kayla.
With Michaela, yeah, sure. Okay, I was trying to. What? She's in the movie.
Stevie was there too. Yeah, we just all it's adorable. Yeah. But yeah, did you see that Social Dilemma?
Never did. That was Zuckerberg, right? Zuckerberg.
Well, it was one of the. I can't remember exactly.
Documentary. No, that was the Social Network.
Social Network is the one about is about Zuckerberg. No, Social Dilemma is the one where they did basically like a strip down of what social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, how they use you as like the product and are just vying and grabbing your attention in a multitude of different ways, notifications, emails, all the things that like, again, lead you to just spending more time on the platform, and how manipulative those platforms are. It just kind of strips that down a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. And just gives you a like, oh wow, look at this research, look at the data, whatever, that kind of thing. So we were just in the middle of that.
Yeah. That sounds like something you'd watch.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you'd get a kick out of it.
Thanks,
You'd get
dude.
kicked out of it. So you were discussing or wanting to break on down, maybe heading into a managing of motivation.
How do we manage motivation, Corey?
Mm-hmm. You know,
Yeah.
that would be an interesting one to get your viewpoint on.
Okay. Well, let's start things off. So motivation is like Webster's dictionary defines motivation. I actually don't know how Webster's dictionary defines motivation. When I think of it, I think of like, okay, well, I think of, to be honest, the first thing that comes to my head when I think of motivation is like waiting to start something. It's like maybe you've had this, goal in mind for a while, or this idea in your head for a while, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be wellness or fitness related. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, but I'm just not motivated yet. It's not motivated to start. It's not motivated, right? So you put off something further and further and further. And that's probably projecting on my end. But like that's what I think when I think of motivation. And in health and wellness or fitness circles, it's often like, I think people tend to maybe have a lot of like they something happens in their life. There's some sort of like trigger event, right? Or like, we had someone that joined at Orange Theory recently who was like, "Oh yeah, I've driven past the studio for 3 years."
Wow.
And it's like just like maybe they were doing something else, but they had driven past this workout, and they finally like came in one day. I was like, "What was the motivation to come in that day? Like, what? Why after 3 years of doing this did you decide? Okay, this is the day I'm going in?" So motivation to me, and this is just a general outline, is very, very fickle. It's very flighty. It's a powerful tool, but it's not a reliable tool.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel?
Well, when I look it up on Oxford Languages, the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way, right? Or similarly, the general desire or willingness of someone to do something. I don't know. When I think of motivation, a couple different routes that I go. I feel like sometimes people rely on it too much, as opposed, or they want to rely on motivation, because if and when you do get those moments where you are motivated, I mean, then you can just ride that adrenaline high, and you're like,
good.
you fucking feel like, yeah, you can just run through a train, like run through a wall. But then all of a sudden, again, when the time comes, and there are going to be many of those where you are not motivated, and the pillow that you are waking up to when your alarm goes off at 5 in the morning when you said you were going to work out that week, and then it's just caressing your head. You're like, oh no, you know what? I'm just going to start tomorrow. It's like, then you can't rely on motivation, because I'm not going to be fucking motivated to wake up and just like raring and ready to go every morning. Mm-hmm. It's like, then you just got to be disciplined enough to like also get your ass out of bed or commit to what you wanted to. So sometimes motivation is blown out of the, like, I think a little out of the realm of things. I think you got to rely more on the discipline as opposed to being motivated. That's just the first thing that I immediately think of.
Lesson 1, motivation is a powerful tool, but not a reliable tool.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's actually a very good way to put it. It really is.
It's like, I mean, motivation like can get to a lot of places. I just started a new like bodybuilding program.
Nice.
And I'm motivated right now because it's the first time I've done this. I looked over the workouts and I was like, oh, I kind of like these. Like they're easier for me to do. And it's like sometimes if I see a lot of like stuff that is a little bit more advanced, I'm like, man, I just don't want to fucking do that.
Yeah.
As far as like, I don't know. I like to work hard, but I also don't like to work hard as well. Like I'm never gonna be motivated to push myself the same way that like someone pushes me if I'm working with like a trainer or a coach or working in a class.
Nope.
I'm just not wired that way. But so like I'm very motivated right now, but I know that like 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, am I still gonna be facing the same level of motivation? There's probably no, because like you can't sustain that same level of intensity. I was talking about this with my colleague, my co-manager Anna at Orange Theory, and I was like, humans were performance, like our performance is not always is optimized, nor is it always like progressive. You're never just going to like get better and better and better and better at something, or you're never going to be on the same wavelength the entire time. Like if I do one thing really well one week, I'm not going to keep doing it this same level every single week. There are going to be dips
it's the idea, like progress is not linear.
Right. There'll be dips in motivation. There'll be dips in intensity. And if I'm solely relying on motivation to get me into to get me to start a new project or to get me to do a creative project, like, do you think we're motivated? Like, I'm not motivated to like edit these videos all the time or like, do something, but it is something that like, okay, we'll have to look at the reason why I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it. And like, I feel like we have something to say and it's fun. You know what I mean? It really is enjoyable. But like, that's why I try to stay so consistent with a weekly episode, at least. You know what I mean? Because that's, before you know it, we've missed a couple weeks and all of a sudden it's like, oh man, we got to get back. You know what I mean? So it's like in the same way with gyms too. So I know that for me, at least, that's my struggle is like, okay, well, I will go through ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're only relying on that spark to keep you doing something, what's going to happen when you don't have that same spark anymore?
Yeah. And I think like finding something throughout your day where just like do something that sucks every day so you can prove to yourself that you can show up on those hard days too.
Is that why you do cold showers?
Actually, oddly enough, now I actually look forward to them in the morning. I feel weird if I don't do it because it just wakes me up right away. But I like to think about that sometimes when I'll hear people that do, I don't know. I'm not knocking like this is just the first thing that comes to my mind. I have nothing against ClassPass. I think again, whatever you want to do for like a fitness program and regimen is great. I just always wonder sometimes when you have people that are going through a program and they just like keep popping around and just doing maybe like a different thing all the time. It's like, are you just doing it because then like you just feel like it doing that more that day? Like, are you avoiding like, oh shit, that's right. Like over at Orange Theory, they were going to do that 1 mile run today and I hate running. So I'm not going to run and I'm going to do the things that I want to do and like to do and enjoy doing. Like if you walk into a spot and you're like, oh fuck, we got barbell reverse lunges today. It's like, that, and look at this, look at the workout or whatever afterwards. Like you also got to like do the things that you don't enjoy doing just as much as you do the things that you enjoy doing.
Oh yeah.
Like, working on those weaknesses and again, showing yourself that you can do those hard things and then continue to grow. Just like, again, if you want to cut down a little bit of weight, but you're not willing to make any of the other sacrifices necessary to get you to that point, well, then what are we doing? You gotta be willing to do some of those hard things. That might be a little change in your nutritional approach or, again, waking up and staying up consistently at the set point that you wanted to in the morning to get to the gym. If that was your plan, again, you can't rely on motivation every single day, every single waking moment. Like set yourself up for success and start getting little wins.
Lesson 2, motivation is fun. Consistency and progress sometimes isn't fun. Yeah, man. I mean, I remember like when I used to coach CrossFit back in the day, and we'd have like a rowing workout program. People would not show up.
Yeah.
People
Cherry picking.
And this doesn't matter if you're doing Orange Theory or CrossFit or whatever. People for some reason don't fucking like rowing, which I always like. I'm not saying it's my favorite thing. Cardio in general is not my favorite, but I think it's like, well, let's take a CrossFitter for instance. Okay, well, if you're someone who wants to compete in CrossFit at any level, intermediate, scaled, which is like in the very beginner stages, scaled, intermediate, or like RX in a local competition or the open, like if you want to compete, you have to row. Like there is going to be a rower at some point, regardless of what thing you do. So if you're going to say, well, okay, well, I'm really struggling with like my weakness is, barbell cycling and rowing. Let's say like your weakness is like, okay, well, I have a workout that's like 15 clean and jerks. I'm really shitty at barbell cycling. So, I need to work on this. And I'm also like not as great with rowing. Well, you need to row to do that. I don't care if you don't like it. You need to do it. And that's the thing is like, and that's if you're trying to progress in competition.
No.
If you are exercising because it's like enjoyable and like that's like something that you don't really have a specific like performance goal in and you're just doing it because you like it and like that's enough to keep you consistent, then yeah, you don't have to work on your rowing because you just eschew it completely. But there are also benefits to it as far as especially taking pressure off your joints and things like that too. But if you do have a specific goal that aligns with that kind of stuff, like you can't rely on like being motivated to do that because like you're going to need to do the hard stuff just like you said at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, even if it is a program that you very much enjoy doing, you're going to have those training days. You're going to have, even if it's a sport that you love, you go to those practices, or you show up and you look at your program and you're like, oh God, I just don't really feel like it. But then at the same time, you have those moments where you've shown to yourself that you can excel and exceed in other areas of your life. Like, even if you're struggling with like the health and fitness side of things, maybe you have a thriving business going right now. So you do some of the hard things there. It's like those behaviors can translate. So it's sometimes just frustrating when I see that sometimes where person can be highly successful in one area and endeavor, and then all of a sudden they're just like really struggling with some of the, again, disciplined elements of it. Like, hey, did you say that you were going to get 30 grams of protein in at breakfast? And that's what our, little goal was. And it's like over and over and over again, they still don't get it done. It's like, oh, come on. Like, just like starting off with just like a little thing. It always baffles me sometimes, like a little bit of disconnect.
So let me ask you this then. So when you're dealing with maybe a lack of motivation, or what does it look like when you are motivated? And what does it look like when you're not motivated?
For me personally?
Yeah, for you personally.
I mean, there was I loved this. I just saw this the other day as I was, again, scrolling through. We're talking about social media, social dilemma. Some of the stuff you can actually get a really good amount of knowledge from, to be fair. And it was just this ring. And for anybody that's, viewing, you're not really necessarily gonna be able to see it. I can toss it on up.
We'll share it on the Average Joe's Instagram later.
Bam, check that out.
Yeah, make sure to subscribe and follow. Make sure to follow us and subscribe to YouTube as well.
But I just like this, and it was first. It is an intention.
So this is describing motivation, or what is this?
I mean, I mean, I don't even know if it would be necessarily like describing motivation, but just kind of like the natural progression as to like the stages that you're going to kind of go through and experience. Like, again, if we're taking the health and fitness example, like, okay, I have these health and fitness goals, that might be
stage one, your intention.
Yeah. Stage one, like your intention, like, okay, yeah, I want to do that. I have these aspirations that I want to get to. It's that first, it's a thought. And then again, it becomes a behavior. Like, what are you actually going to go and do now about it? Then if you engage in that behavior over and over and over again, consistently showing up and staying disciplined with it, then it can become that habit where it's something, again, you're habitually doing. That habit then transcends into, it is a practice, which I think is a unique, this is just my own interpretation of it, mind you, where going from like the habit to a practice, like practice, I feel is something almost a little bit more, even more intentional. Now I'm like actually trying to go through like the finer points of something, or like, now I'm getting a little bit more into, like my cadence on a run, or you start getting a little bit more into the minutia of that thing that you're really getting into.
When I hear practice, it makes me think that it is more agency given to the individual. Mm-hmm. So a habit, it's in some regards, if you think of like habit, you can think of positive or negative habits. So you can think of like habit gives me the kind of idea of like it being somewhat like intentional, but somewhat more like ingrained.
Yeah.
But less something that you're actively processing and choosing and changing as you go. Mm. Whereas a practice sounds more like one is becoming more, giving more thought to a habit, mm-hmm. and forming it based on their own like awareness, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you're doing like a yoga practice, it's not that you're doing the same thing as a yoga habit every single day. You're actually thinking about, okay, this is what I'm doing on these days because it affects my life in this way, or like you're actually changing it to benefit you more. And so you're having more agency over it. Mm-hmm. And that is just my interpretation of practice versus habit. But
I think that was fair, because as you were describing that, I'm just thinking about somebody who has already instilled the habit of just getting to the gym like 4 to 5 days a week. But then while they're there, they're just kind of just doing maybe like their own thing. They haven't really figured out what they're going to do necessarily at the gym, but they start to get into a routine, maybe a little bit of, all right, I did the treadmill, and then I'll do like maybe a little upper body. And then I think of like a practice where they're like, okay, wait a second, I really want to, like, I'm already here. Where is a way in which that I can kind of give this a little bit more direction to, and now start getting onto like a program, or like I'm going to do a bodybuilding program. I actually want to build muscle. Or like, what is it that you want, and identifying that then becomes a little bit more of the practice, like you said, taking a little bit more ownership of it. And then that leading into it becoming just second nature. And then ultimately just simply like who we are as a person. Like, you've ingrained that habit. You've turned that into a practice for such a long period of time. It would just kind of became your being now. which I think is just a beautiful kind of evolution of it. But I mean, again, it's starting off just like simply with the intention, then, transcending all of those different levels,
Sure.
you know?
So to recap, what is intention first?
Yes, intention, then a behavior
Okay.
into a habit, into a practice, becoming second nature, and then simply who we are.
Sure. A part of your
Yeah.
a part of your identity in
Mm-hmm.
a way, and not in a negative way.
Yes.
Sometimes we associate other things too much with our identity, but
Mm-hmm.
just like that person who enjoy. I mean, like you and I, more you to an extent, but like we don't have to think about exercise as much anymore. It is something that is inherent to us, where it's like, you know, we had the vacation thing at one point.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are probably going to exercise on vacation.
Oh God, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, oh God, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's the first thing I
And
plan out.
it might look different. Like you might make it a point. Okay, I have to get to a CrossFit box on vacation, or if you get to like a weightlifting gym on vacation. For me, it's like, okay, well, I might not get to a specific gym, but I'm going to be going for like a walk, or I might go to like the hotel gym. Like when I was in so when I was in Tampa last spring, I did an Orange Theory workout there at the Channel Side Studio. Shout out Channel Side, Tampa. It was a dope studio. It was like 18 stations. It's pretty cool. Really pretty area. So shout out Channel Side. And then I did like a hotel gym workout at another day, right? And then, but I walked a lot as well. And then Megan and I were in Charlotte, we did a lot of walking, but we also did an Orange Theory workout one day as well. And we also did an apartment gym workout,
Yep.
hotel gym workout. So it doesn't look the same every time, but there's intention to it. It's just like, that's just what we're going to do because that's what we care about.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to look for those opportunities. And like, you might miss, like, let's say worst comes to worst, like you go on another trip to Colombia or something, like for more coffee.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You're there for a week and you can't get to a gym, whatever. But like when you get back, you don't have to worry about like never going back to the gym. You've already ingrained those habits. You already ingrained that practice in you so much that the second you get back, you're hitting the fucking gym.
Yeah. But and again, that's built up on a lot of cachet though. You know what I mean? Like I've done that routine for, again,
1,000%. Absolutely.
For, I mean, shit, at that point, like 15 years, like I'm 30, I've been working out, doing something physically active, like basically every day, for that extended period of time. So again, yeah, for somebody in my position who's been able to demonstrate that level of discipline in that aspect of my life, then I have with utmost confidence my willingness and ability to be able to just get right back to routine after like a week or 2 weeks gone. I would have no reservation. Like if you told me like, yeah, you're going to go to Rome, like I'm not going to be as concerned about hitting up a gym. I'll just stay active. I'll walk, but yeah, I'll get out of my routine. I don't really give a shit because I know I'll be fine. But somebody else that again hasn't done that or hasn't proven it to themselves, then that can become a little bit of that slippery slope where people are like, oh my gosh, I hear it all the time too. And like summer's a great example where people are like, this always happens. And then I go up to the cabin this weekend and but then we're gone. And then we're going to do this thing over in Six Flags. And then we're going to be gone then we have like 3 weddings this summer. And you just hear it just pile up. Like they're just giving themselves all of these different outs in a way in their mind. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, oh yeah, we'll just have to like kind of put my membership on hold for the summer. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and we're also very biased because we both work in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
So when people go on vacation, like when they freeze or cancel, it's like, what the fuck? Why?
Yeah.
But also, it speaks to so like, there are so many people who go on vacation and then they come back and then they continue to not come in because that first workout back is so scary, right? And then, like you said, there are people that like, okay, I've had this conversation with members before where it's like they're at their cabin in the summer, and if anybody's listening from not the Midwest or Minnesota area, summertime is prime quote unquote boating and cabin season. So in Minnesota, it's known as the land of 10,000 lakes, but there are more like 11,000 plus.
Wisconsin.
That's a lot of it's a lot of shoreline. That's a lot of people that have, economically they are privileged enough to have cabins in areas, and so like that means that there's a lot of visiting that stuff over the summertime because in Minnesota we usually get anywhere from between 4 to 6 months of winter, right?
Yeah.
Even when it's not winter, it's like 50 degrees. And we've actually had a very, very
We didn't
mild
have
spring. We've had a
anything.
beautiful
Yeah.
spring. We had a very
Yes.
mild winter as well. But it's still not summertime until like, it's pretty much summer right now, to be
I was
honest.
going to say, you don't consider this summer? I
Well, right
consider.
now it is. I mean, well, just because it's like in the mid 70s.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but yeah. So, anyways, so we have a lot of people that will like, oh, like I've had members like, oh yeah, I'm at the cabin 4 days out of the week. I'm like, cool. What are you doing on the other 3 days that you're here?
No
Like
shit.
getting ready for the cabin, and like, and that's, I don't mean to be, I don't mean to be, I don't mean to be
We're
that.
like, what the fuck are they doing up at the cabin? And then like, you can be so active up there.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And I don't mean to be rude. And if you're listening to this and this is you, I don't mean to be disparaging. Like, I get it, guys. Like, if I had the financial flexibility and the job responsibility to be able to work 2 days a week or 3 days a week from a cabin and be out in the sun and like be with my family, I would fucking do it too.
In a heartbeat.
But that doesn't like we've talked before about integrating your family into your fitness routine.
Yeah.
Go check out episode of that. Go check out all of our episodes, but it was one of the more recent ones. But like that doesn't have to exclude you from staying in your fitness routine.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you're realizing, okay, this is someone who maybe relies on motivation. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're motivated to hit the fucking cabin, so they're not motivated to work out. Or maybe right now, like, maybe on that tier, maybe that was a habit, but you can break habits.
No.
Or maybe that was what was it? It was an intention, then it was a behavior. Maybe they're in the behavior stage where it's like, okay, they were getting in like, moderately consistently, and now because it's the summertime, they're off and away.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just rely on that like feeling of like, that motivation, because that's what happens to people in January. And then you see a lot of people stay because they are able to make their fitness and wellness a priority or a habit. And then it's a practice. But a lot of people, they as soon as they're not motivated anymore, as soon as they're not like jazzed to go to the gym, as soon as they start feeling like they're it's kind of like a chore, they quit. Or they jump ship, they go to a new routine. I've had people that like work out for like 4 weeks, and if they're not seeing results, they're done, or they're changing routines. And that's just not enough fucking time.
No,
it's just not enough time. You will see cardiovascular changes long before any physical changes. And that's the sad truth. But if you continue, like, you're going to see change.
Well, and like one of the things that I never really here again, just looking back at some of the previous posts, because I just think about this so often when people are trying to identify like what it is that they want to work towards, and again, set yourself up for like a goal, give yourself something tangible you can go out and chase. Like when you think about like how we're just naturally going to age, each and every one of us, like why would you not want to just try to maximize this one body that you have to its utmost potential, to give yourself the longest runway for like overall health and longevity, which means you're going to be able to spend more quality time with your family and more quality time with your friends and more quality time with your children and grandchildren, if that is indeed like your goal, more time to be able to do all the activities that you enjoy doing. Because if you're not prioritizing it, you're fucking just running your body into the ground. You're shaving off years, if not decades, of your life that could have been spent doing all the things that you loved to do, but you were just either too stubborn or just again unmotivated. But that's basically just means you weren't disciplined enough to continue on with it. Like it's frustrating for me when I see or try to work with those people. Like, God, you are so close. Do you understand? Like, this is the only fountain of youth we got right now. Like, this is it.
Yeah,
this is it. And you're not giving it the again, credence it deserves.
And I think if it sounds like we are maybe a little bit uppity about
impassioned, yeah,
it's because we are. It's because we see this every single year, and we like keep in mind that if you've ever been a member with or a client of myself or Corey, like, you see us as like we're one person, but we see so many of you guys. We see so many of y'all that like, oh, that person's no longer a member. Oh, that person's doing this and that. And then everybody's got their own fitness journey. Like, I'm not saying you should stick with something that you fucking hate. Like, if you've been a member at a gym for 6 months and you're not having fun anymore, you don't like the community, and like it's not doing anything for you progression wise, like you're not progressing a certain way. One thing, let's make sure you're you're looking at progression. And I think some people are like, oh, I'm not doing anything anymore. It's like, well, are you measuring any of your fitness? Because if you're not measuring anything, how do you know if you're not progressing?
Mm-hmm.
But or like if you're not measuring like your nutrition and things like that too, that could be a big reason why you're not progressing. But I think it's really important to look at all those options first, and then if you want to change routines, you can. But remember that you're changing routines. Like you have to be able to stay consistent, committed to one thing, which is actually has progressive overload in weightlifting. Like if you do a new exercise every single day, if you do a new everything, like if everything is new every day, or like you're going from solid core to Orange Theory to a CrossFit class back to solid core, then you're going to berries, then we're doing like if you're doing just a bunch of different workout routines, and you know like you might not see, you'll see like gradual change, especially if like you're a newbie.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're not going to see progression in the things you want to progress, and you have to track your repetitions, and you have to track your sets, and you have to track your weights. And like I tell everybody at Orange Theory, I'm like, like you need to track your dumbbells, and you track your speeds, track your rowing. Just like that's why we do benchmark workouts, just so you can like see progression. And if not, then it's like, okay, cool, my 500-meter row has been the same every single time, so maybe I need to work on like my all out rowing. I need to work on my like squats and my leg strength to like improve that. Like so.
Well, and then even with that too, it's like going along with the motivation side of things, but then also like the going in it with the right mindset as well. Like, okay, you you could already be like a very avid. I'll flip this on the complete opposite like side of the coin here now. So you can also get people who already consistently show up, they engage in the behavior, the practice, or whatever, the lifestyle or whatever. Maybe it already is who they are. They continuously go to those things, but they have the just incorrect mentality and mindset about it, where they are not going to full squat like on a depth if and when they have the ability to. They ego lift and they push more weight than actually truly what their body should be working at that point, just because they're caught in their routine. It's like that again, the person at any gym across the world, but I'll just say like, okay, like the OTF member who it's like they never squat to depth and they are never choosing to do it. It's like, then that's again our job as a coach to again work with them. But there are some people that are just like
able to
physically able to, and then have the willingness again and discipline to like work on it. But those people are almost frustrating too. It's like, okay, you're there too, but now why just get out of your own head? Like just bump down the weight a little bit. Like, okay, yeah, work on that. So now your joints are healthier and all those aspects.
There's so many ways to progress.
There is,
outside of just heavier weight. I mean, if you look at like, let's say if you keep the same weight but you increase tempo, if you keep the same weight but you increase range of motion, if you add pause, like those are three ways you can add intensity without adding any weight at all.
Like a perfect example is just like the other week I was teaching the babes class, and it's a little bit more of the older gals crew that's coming on in, and we were doing squats, and this one lady, she's just absolute sweetheart, was at the end rack, and she had on maybe 95 pounds on the barbell in total. This is again generally more middle-aged women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, I would say, is the kind of demographic there. And she was only squatting down like well north of parallel. And I was like, I've seen you do air squats before. You absolutely bury this. And then I just like went on over and talked to her. I was like, actually here, like I just put her up on like a little bit of like of a heel wedge, and then just had her do like a air squat. But when she got down to the bottom of like that full squat, she couldn't stand back up. I was like, ooh, okay, so now we have like a strength issue, like at that end range of motion down at the bottom, like you can't even get up. But like if you put 95 pounds on your back and you keep squatting above parallel, like congratulations. But then what happens if all of a sudden you're down at the bottom of the squat? You couldn't even just stand up right now. And that you could see kind of like, oh, like, yeah, I should probably like work on that. And then bless her heart, she did the rest of the class. And like now she's actually just working on like a full range of motion squat first. And I was like, that's awesome. Like I celebrated that, for her willingness to be able to like get out of her little mental state or that ego that a lot of us have, like, oh no, I got to push weight. I got to do whatever X, Y, or Z to try to impress people around me. Like, who the fuck cares, dude? Like, just, work out and do it and do the exercise.
If you look at like functionality, I mean, like you're going to need to squat below parallel in your life, because like not every step or seat or, rock, if you're like hiking,
get out of a car, out of a
none
toilet.
None of it is parallel. Like, when we were in over Christmas time, we were at Megan's, we were in Green Bay visiting her family. We went to, her grandparents' place, and her grandma was like depth squatting like down to like stool. It was like the lowest stool I've ever seen in my life, and she's
That's
like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna squat down." I was like, "What the fuck, really?"
Yeah.
I was actually really impressed.
Yeah.
Like obviously, I was probably the only person like noticed it at the time, but I was just like, "Did she?"
Yeah,
always
you're like, are
squat
y'all
that low?
seeing her mobility
Yeah,
right now? Like that's
I know.
insane. And strength,
I don't want to like
stability, like
I don't want to like call it out. I feel like that would be kind of weird, but
yeah.
that's really impressive.
How many people? How many people right now? You were saying how old was
Yeah.
she?
I think they're in their 70s.
In their 70s. So like you have
Yeah.
this woman who's like in her 70s that could like perform that squat probably. I mean, again, I never saw it,
Yeah.
but it sounds pretty good.
She wasn't
Man,
like repping it out, but
no,
she
but still,
sat
like, what
down.
percentage
Yeah.
of the population right now, let's say that would be like in their fucking between like 18 and 30, like would not be able to like hit a really, really good full range of motion squat. I feel like it would be a number, and regardless of what it is, it's going to be too damn high.
Yeah, and if we look at like, okay, well, let's remove kind of like, okay, well, you know, let's say someone has had like knee replacements or hip replacements, like let's remove kind of the obvious injury factor to it. Yeah, no, it's definitely probably a low percentage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and just like how much of our percentage is not taking care of their health and fitness. That number is fucking terrifying.
So let's throw a third caveat out here because I feel like we were talking for a lot, just impassioned speech.
Yes.
Impassioned rambling.
Yeah.
Impassioned. That's a fun word. I like that though. We'll just say that instead. But so let's look at like, so action begets motivation.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like sometimes you need to start something and you'll be motivated to start. So I am right now being tested for ADHD. Not sure if I got it yet, but probably. So, and this is, you know, what's the word for it? When you procrastinate, procrastination is not specific to ADHD people. Procrastination is regardless of anybody, whether neurodivergent or not. But historically, one of my hardest things for me to do has been to start something. I'll put it off, right? Because I'm like, man, I'm gonna think of something, or you know, sometimes like like in college, I got in the habit of like, oh, I'm gonna do this last minute because it's like that's when I do my best work, and it's like that's not true. It's not fucking true. You know, that's what the story you tell yourself, probably because you're just like, you know, you don't have anything to measure it against because you've never done your work on time. So why?
That's a fair point.
So there'd be times, and I had to learn this when I went back to grad school. Was like, okay, well, I'm not messing around anymore. Now I'm in my late 20s / 30s. I think I graduated a couple of years ago, and I'm doing this for a reason, and I'm choosing to do this. So sometimes when you go to undergrad, you know, that's a whole other fucking story. I don't want to get us into it, but sometimes you go to undergrad, it's like kind of like, okay, well, if your family went and you know, you have good enough grades, and it's the expectation, or it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go because like, you know, my friends are all whatever. It's like, you know, you and you know, you can take out a $40,000 loan. Like that's the expect. And so it's just natural progression versus now when I was going back, I actually had to focus, and I'm choosing to do this. And so the first thing I noticed when I started practicing this action against motivation is that I would just open up, let's say I had to write a paper, and I would open up my first fucking thing, open up Word. Okay. I'm at my computer. I open up the Word document. Boom. All right, cool. I'm here. All right, next thing, write my name. Cool. Got my name on the sheet. Next thing, what's the title? And I kind of like naming stuff, so I think I was like, okay, what's the title of this fucking paper? This is cool. Okay, got my title, got my name, got the date, whatever else, class. Okay. Well, now I got that. Move on to page 2. Okay, what was my, you know, so it's like you the most step-by-step process. Action begets motivation. I wasn't motivated to start the paper, but I was able to pull up the fucking Microsoft Word, and then from there just keep going.
No.
You have to start something. You have to type anything. Even if you're just on your computer and just like you're typing up whatever, you're typing something, you're just fucking mashing the keys.
No.
Right? So bringing this to a fitness level of perspective, sometimes you just need to, like I would say, if you have trouble getting to the gym and it's not like a time thing, it's not like a, you know, even if it is, literally make it the easiest on yourself as possible. So one way to work around motivation is like literally have all of your clothes picked out, have them sitting by the freaking door so you can't pass the door before you, like, without your clothes being there. Right, the night before, put your shoes out, put your clothes out, put whatever out. This is right in the front of the door. So if I want to skip the gym, I have to actively step over my clothes. You know what I mean?
And you're removing at the same time like all of those barriers that you're gonna give yourself right away in the fucking morning to
Yeah.
begin with. Like again, the bed's gonna be nice, warm, and cozy, so you don't want to get out. But then you're like, well, I don't even know what I would even wear anyway. And then just that little fucking thing is enough to just be like, nah, I'm gonna go back to bed. So then
I've
fuck
been
that.
there.
It's right there. Just get it and go. Anytime it comes down to the motivation, like one of my first reactions, and I always have to bite my tongue when people are like, I'm just not motivated. I'm like, fuck your motivation. Oh,
Yeah.
we don't like it. Again, it starts with action. It starts with discipline to be able to like get up and then keep going. And then once you demonstrate to yourself that you can stay disciplined for a long enough
Yeah.
and you start seeing some of the results that pay off of it, that's when you get really
And
motivated.
I'm a big proponent of like, if you can't make it to the gym, like, what are you doing in your time at home that cannot be filled with some sort of
No
exercise?
shit.
Squat once at home. Squat, do it. Squat again.
Yeah.
Squat again. Like, it's just one thing after another, because guaranteed you knock out like 10 squats. Okay, well, now push-ups don't sound too bad. Okay, well, now lunges don't sound too bad. Okay, well, now let me see if I can go on that walk. Like, okay, put your shoe
Mm-hmm.
on, one shoe at a time. Okay, put your shoe. Okay, your shoe's on. Awesome. Well, the door's right there. Well, it's nice that day outside. I might as well go. Like, make it as easy on yourself as possible and break it down to the most manageable chunks you can, and move on that action on it. You know what I mean?
One of my favorites that I've come to appreciate a lot more in my morning routine is that one, I keep and maintain the morning routine. So like one of the things I'll do, or a lot of times, like when I'm working with clients, like you don't get to hit the snooze button. Like show up to yourself like right there, that's a win. Like if you wake up, the alarm goes off and you don't hit snooze and you just get up, like that's already a win right there. Like you've proven to yourself that you can do it and then now maintain. But like if you give yourself that hit of that snooze button, well, now you just let the phone beat you a little bit. I'm a big proponent of just like doing that and then show yourself that, okay, make your bed like right away in the morning. My parents were always so hard on me about that too. I shouldn't say hard, but they liked us to keep our rooms clean and neat. And again, you're just showing yourself like, okay, well, now that I'm up, I'll make my bed. Now that I'm in, made my bed, that's 2 wins already. I stacked up on top right away in the morning. And that's like, okay, well, now I'm off on the right foot. But if you, like you said, maybe don't prep yourself, prior planning prevents piss poor performance. So again, if that's an area or a behavior that oftentimes like defeats you, is just even the simple task of like, well, I don't even know what I'd wear in the morning. Well, plan for it and prep for it just the night prior. Then you've already negated that potential obstacle in the morning. You didn't hit your snooze alarm in the morning, so that's a win. Cool. Now you got up, you made your bed. Oh, bam, 2 wins. Let's keep this fucking train rolling. You know, that's just me.
Yeah. Now I get it. My bed is clearly not made, but I was watching the dog at Meg's, and not that my bed would be made anyway. But when I first started staying at her place when we first started dating, and she was always very like, her bed is always made in the morning, and so like for me, when I was staying at her place, one of the ways that I was like, I'm going to. And I think when you're first dating someone or a couple months in, you also like want to show them like your best side still. And part of me was like, well, I really want to like, what's the small ways that I can show her that I like care, you know what I mean? That I care about her and I care about her space, and that I'm very conscious that I'm in her space too. You know what I mean?
What's one of the ways in which you do it, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, make the bed.
Make the
Yeah,
bed.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that is
absolutely. So
gotcha.
to
Yeah.
go along with what we were saying, is that we get up in the morning and I'll make the bed. And she had to show me how to do it right the first time, but then after that, but then after she showed me, I was good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that, like, so she was out of town this weekend, but I still did it.
Yeah.
It's like she's not there, but like it's still her space, and we're moving in together pretty soon, so it'll be our space.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. But that's something that I want to keep doing, because then it shows her that I give a shit, and it also shows myself that I'm like, okay, well, now I've done something in the morning already. So like, I had that, she came back today and the bed was already made. Like, so it's like, and for her, she is someone who likes to come back to that, like, okay, everything's chill.
Oh,
You know what I
agreed.
mean? Rather than like come back to like my shit
Chaos.
all over the place, and I
Yeah.
did have to take the trash out, but stuff like that, right? So it's like doing those small actions, like you said, can motivate you in many different ways. And like, motivation again is not like a bad thing, a negative thing, but I think the where we get stuck is that we're so focused on. Okay, well, that's probably a good place to end anyway. The computer just cut us off. So hope to God that that last hour of recording was good, because I know how it feels to lose recording and make me really upset. But that is great. So otherwise, Corey, we had something to we talk about here at the very end. let me take a look at our.
As you're looking that up, one last little thing in summation on the motivation side of things. Again, when we're thinking about the times, oftentimes where you have tried a new routine, you're trying to stay motivated and disciplined with a exercise and fitness routine, and you failed multiple times along the path, like recognize that, yeah, like those failures, like that's still on you. Like 100% of your failures have been because of, again, the mindset that caused you to kind of like half-ass your work, quick, jump ship. But again, if you want the results that you're oftentimes seeking, you really need to maintain like the focus and discipline when it comes to that. So it's like lock in, chase one goal, stay disciplined and routine with it every single day without fail. Like, don't let anything kind of like steal your attention from that. Otherwise, it's so easy to just kind of like fall off the wagon with it, and just like really going on one thing. And then it's just like by the time like all of a sudden you're showing to yourself day in and day out, you find yourself up the mountaintop and you're like, fuck yeah, Yeah. Anyways, what was the other?
Love that. Well, no, I mean, like we were talking about how kind of obviously, like, we've touched on this a couple of times about like needing progression, needing a program. Corey and I will be releasing some programs actually here in the next several months.
Yes.
Via the Playbook app, which is, if anybody has used that before, it's kind of like a coaching app that a lot of people can put programs on. There's like a monthly thing. I think you can also just buy the programs outright.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be on there pretty dang soon. We already have a page up. It's just not like we haven't uploaded anything really too much. But that's something that's a long-term process for us. But
yeah,
really excited for that.
It is exciting. Yeah.
Like working on just like, and I think I want to do a body weight one for sure, like an at-home one for sure, just so, because like that is something that, again, I'm like, we've talked about a lot, is like just moving your body, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, mine's going to be a little different.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, we'll do some multiple ones too. But the idea is like give you guys a little bit more of like a taste of kind of what it would be what it would be like to actually like work with us and actually, we talk a lot about this kind of stuff and be able to see that actually in programming and give it a try and, feedback and things like that too. So we'll be doing that pretty soon. But you can find it like on the Playbook app, Average Bros Gym Podcast, I think is the name of us.
Yeah.
You can also find us, of course, on the gram at Average Bros Gym Podcast, YouTube channel, Average Bros Gym Podcast. Take a look at us. You can see us on screen. So that's always nice in my incredibly messy room because I'm moving in 12 days.
So fast.
And then you can also find us on, what else are we on?
You're shooting out of a den here soon.
Yeah, I got a cool little studio. We're gonna set that up. But yeah, email us at averagebrosgympodcast@gmail.com if you have any topics you want covered, any questions that you have that we don't answer, that you want answered, all the fun things there. Otherwise, team, thank you so much for listening today. Go Timberwolves tonight, Game 7. And yeah, be on the lookout for our we got Patreon as well, which again we're gonna be doing some little bit more kind of like blog and vlog and all that kind of stuff, content there. And then Playbook, we've got the workouts coming pretty soon, the next 1 month here. So looking forward to more feedback. Again, reach out to us as much or as little as you'd like, but preferably as much as you'd like. And Corey, any last questions, thoughts, answers, all the fun things?
Nope. Not really.
Fantastic. Now that's it. All right, guys, have a great rest of your
Sunday.
May 19th. May 19th. Rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, friends.